And so today I'm joined by two incredible women that I get the pleasure of working with. I'm with Mudzuli Rakhivhane, who is from Akhani Strategy Group, and I'm with Ayanda Allie, who is our Gauteng member of the Legislature. And so we want to tell you about this bill. We want to let you know what it's all about. We want you to know our heart when it comes to this bill and why we think it's important. But we also then want to tell you the technicalities of the bill, what it's going to do, what we hope it does, and how we hope it changes the workplace, particularly for young people in South Africa. And so we have timed this to align with Youth Day because it is particularly important for young South Africans. So I'm going to start off with Ayanda. And if you, Ayanda, can just talk to us about this bill. Why are we here? How did this bill come to build One South Africa? And why is it important to us?
Oh man, thank you so much, Nobuntu. I'm super excited about this bill as well because I feel like it's the culmination of everything that we had set out to do as Build One South Africa, which, as you said, was to make sure that the voice of everybody in South Africa can be heard, and not just the powerful or the political elite or those who are connected, but every man, woman, child on the street can have a seat in the legislature because I'm there, a seat in parliament because you're there, and they can be represented in the corridors of power. So for me, this bill represents just that. It started out like an ordinary day at the office where we had sent out information on social media to say, we want to be your hands and feet, eyes and ears. Let us know what's on your mind. Let us know what you want us to champion. And we got a message from a gentleman by the name of Patu, who said, hey, look, I've been discriminated against in my various workplace where I found out that I was earning significantly less than one of my peers for the same job. And I think we can put together a legislation that can counter that. Ah, man. We called him to our offices and said, Patu, tell us more, only to find that he had done all the work. And this also speaks to the active citizenry, right, which is an important component of what we do as Build One South Africa. He had already gone on the ground. He had already met with a couple of stakeholders, and they had put together a draft. And by the time they came to Build One South Africa, and we said this would be best suited and national, we reached out to yourself and said, Nobuntu, what do you think about this? You ran with it and said, definitely, we can raise this in the House. And I think that journey is the epitome of what we stand for as Build One South Africa, working together with the citizenry to make sure that we champion causes that are close to their hearts. And so what this bill will in essence do is to make sure that people are paid fairly, that I will not be discriminated against because of my sex or my gender, that I will be paid what the position is worth. And that is because I'm not going to be asked what were you earning in your previous job and then have a small little markup for the new job that I'm applying for. I'm going to be given what the position is worth. And I'm not going to be, like I said, sidelined because I was perhaps given a wrong pay slip or a salary beforehand. So I'm very excited about this. I'm looking forward to you championing it. And I know it's going to make a huge difference on the ground.
So awesome, Ayanda, and thank you so much for having partnered and journeyed with the gentleman Patu who had brought this to us, but also just for recognizing its importance for South Africa and for particularly young South Africans, because this ultimately becomes so important at the start of your career because it actually determines the trajectory of your career. Mudzuli, now, talk to us about the technical nitty-gritty. As a legal practitioner, and actually, I would call you a democracy practitioner, even more than a legal practitioner, and as a consultant, what is the technical nitty-gritty? What are we trying to achieve? What law are we trying to amend? Talk to us about that.
I like that title, a democracy practitioner. I think I'm going to add that to my LinkedIn ASAP. Okay, yes, I'd also like thank you for this opportunity. It's been really a privilege to consult on this particular project. And essentially what this amendment is going to be is an amendment to the Employment Equity Act. And what's great about this is that it's just bolstering what already exists as a framework legally. And one of the things as a lawyer and as lawmakers, you always want the impact of the laws that you make to actually be felt on the ground. And currently, the Employment Equity Act has the perimeters for this, but what's happening on the ground isn't actually translating into practice. So essentially what this is going to do is it's going to, like I said, amend the Employment Equity Act in 3 particular ways. The first one is around the infamous payslip, and I'm sure a lot of people listening to this are going to relate to this particular instance of being forced in some instances to produce a payslip at either the recruitment stage or the negotiation stage before they enter a job or are applying for promotion. And essentially what the payslip debacle does is that it entrenches previous cycles of underpayment. So for example, if I, for example, was coming from Limpopo and I was working at an accounting firm over there and I was being paid 20,000 Rand a month, and I moved to Johannesburg, obviously big economic hub, and I go and I start a job in a law firm, an accounting firm over there. And in reality, the peers that I'm going to work with are being paid 34,000 Rand for exactly the same job. But because I'm now being asked to produce my pay slip as the determiner of what I'm going to be paid next, it means that a company can easily just offer me 24,000 Rand. And for me, I'm thinking, oh, this is amazing. What an upgrade. But in reality, they've actually undersold me 10,000 Rand, which they are saving and pocketing because of the fact that they're basing my pay, which was probably low already because I'm coming maybe from a more rural province, or I was underpaid for whatever reasons in the first instance. And so how people get locked into cycles of underpayment is through being forced not only just to produce a pay slip, but their pay being determined by their previous pay. Now, then related to this is the second aspect of what this bill does, is that it asks for employers to actually be transparent and open about what the pay scale is. So it asks employers to do the work of saying, right, the job of a junior accountant is actually between 24 and 34,000 Rand. That is what we have budgeted, and that is what the market value of the job is. That's what we're currently paying the people who maybe were recruited from university and worked their way up in the business, and this is what the job is worth. Therefore, when Ayanda comes into the job, the determiner of what exactly she's going to be paid will be, for instance, maybe Ayanda took an extra short course, or maybe she has a specialized practice in this particular area, or maybe she has slightly more experience than the people that are in that salary bracket. So what it does is that it ensures, number one, that the employer is actually doing the work of scaling and valuing jobs for what they work based on the market. But two, it then allows for the negotiations to be within a bracket which take into consideration your specific circumstances. So your specific education, your specific experience, your specific extra qualities that you may have. And what that does is that, again, it puts people on equal footing when it comes to pay scales, but it also means that now you have transparency around jobs. Again, it means that you're not going to have a job advert that says, you'll find out, or TBC. It means that Ayanda, as a worker, has an opportunity going in from the very beginning to know exactly what she's signing up for. So many people can relate to stories where they see a job and then they apply and they get to the end, and then it's like, okay, so what's the pay? And it's far less than what you even imagined or what you're earning now. And not only did you just waste your time and money going through an interview process, I think so many young people can relate to how incredibly expensive interviewing is and going through the job process. So it means that we're not wasting each other's time. I know what I'm coming into. You are being transparent from the get-go, and that way we're eliminating unfair salary discrepancies. It also means that the people who are currently in the job can also see what the value of the job is. Because now there's instances where people who have been underpaid who are already in the job, and then people who are coming in are actually being paid for what the job is worth. And so again, it means that there's transparency between existing colleagues and colleagues who are coming into the market. Again, obviously, your specific expertise and your qualifications are the variance in between that sliding scale. And then the third aspect, which I think is, we see multiple Twitter threads on this and LinkedIn threads on this about how people discover that the colleagues that they work with are earning way more than they are. It can happen in the most hilarious ways. Sometimes it's someone bought a new car and you're thinking to yourself, no, man, I know what I'm earning and I think I know what you're earning, how you're affording this. And so many companies out there have policies around people not being able to disclose or share what they earn. So many, and again, that is just a mechanism in which it's the secrecy that actually perpetuates the culture of underpay. So it's like,
and on that, Mudzuli,
yeah,
it's often written into contracts.
exactly.
So it's often a legal obligation that you actually can't disclose and you can't ask the next colleague.
Yes, which tells you everything you need to know. If someone's telling you not to say something, it's often because they're hiding something nefarious. And so what this bill does now is that it actually gives you a written right to be able to take what you have been offered in writing and actually be able to then ask people in the market and actually disclose what you've been given as an offer in order to determine whether or not you're being paid fairly, market price, and whether or not this is actually the pay scale of the company or companies related to your job search. And so while in theory you do already have that existing right, because as Nobuntu said, so many times it's written into clauses, into contracts, or it's very much the culture of an organization. So sometimes no one's going to put it in writing, but it's an unsaid rule. Now you actually have a tangible written right that says to you, actually can then go and say, this is how much I've been offered. And you can also then for yourself do market related research. So those are the three amendments to the existing act. And like I said before, so much of the framework has already been set up in the Employment Equity Act. And all that this amendment does is it actually gives practical mechanisms for that to become a reality of what the spirit and the purport of the Employment Equity Act has always set out to do. But unfortunately, that hasn't happened in reality.
Thank you so much, Mudzuli, for that in-depth technical outline of what this is, but also actually how it applies in real life situations. We're going to wrap up because actually we are going to the media briefing now, where we are introducing this particular bill. I just want to say that I am incredibly excited about this journey, and we're going to be engaging you a lot more on it. It has implications. And I mean, even right now, my head is going in all sorts of directions because it has implications. And I think it's quite a game changer for generally work culture and how work culture looks like and is engaged, but also for employment equity and real justice when it comes to upward mobility. Ayanda, parting shots before we go off and introduce this to South Africans?
I love it. I think this is the proof in the pudding that Build One South Africa is there for you. And whatever it is that you have in mind, whatever changes you want to see in the country, I want to encourage everybody to reach out to us. You have the ideas, you have the lived experience, you have the reality, and we are here to represent you. So wherever you are in this country and you're thinking, oh, I have an idea of how to revolutionize this industry, or I've got a concept that will really change the living conditions for people in this area, I would encourage you to partner with us, and together let's build.
I've always said nobody is coming to save us but ourselves, and this is really just one of the ways. As always, nwebster@parliament.gov.za. If you have anything that you want to engage on when it comes to the various portfolio committees we sit on, but anything at all that you think your voice needs to be represented on in Parliament. Thank you, Mudzuli. Thank you, Ayanda. And to everybody else, have an incredible week further, and God bless.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Alrighty, guys, let's go.
Amazing. Thanks, guys.
Ciao.
Fiona.